Hey, this is John Glennon of the Tennessean. I'm here with colleague Jim Wyatt, and we're taking a look at the Jake Locker situation for the Titans. Of course, Locker's season came to an end last Sunday when he suffered a Lisfranc foot injury against Jacksonville. Very disappointing for both Locker and the Titans. He was starting to show some glimpses of being a quality quarterback earlier in this year, but it's out for the season again for Jake Locker. We're taking a look now at what this means long term for the Titans. So in terms of a contract situation for Jake and really his future with the Titans and the Titans quarterback situations, here's Jim Wyatt to take a look at that.
Yeah, and the Titans are in a tough spot here because they really like Jake Locker. You talk to the offensive coordinator, the head coach, the general manager. I mean, anybody that's around this guy raves about his work ethic, his attitude, his approach, and like John mentioned, I mean, he got off to a good start this year, 3-1 in his first 4 starts. He had hip and knee injuries, was slowed down, and now he's out for the year, with the Lisfranc injury. And Titans want this guy to be their quarterback of the future, but you wonder about whether he's the guy because he's had so many injuries. He will end up missing, 14 of 32 potential starts because of these injuries. And the injuries have ranged from the hip to the knee, to the shoulder, to now the Lisfranc injury. And the Titans just don't know if this is a guy that they can count on long term. He's under contract for next season, the 4th year of his contract. He's going to make a little bit over $2 million. The tricky part is they've got to make a decision on year 5, the option year, by next May, and if they decide to pick up the option, he would be paid, the average of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, and that number is like at $13 million. So the Titans are going to be faced with a situation next offseason where they're either going to have to pick up the option, guarantee him $13 million for year 5. They'll have to, redo his, try to give him maybe an extension if they like what they see, if they decide not to pick it up, or they just let him become a free agent. So a lot of things to consider. I still believe the Titans believe in Locker and like Locker, but again, they're going to have to talk about a lot of things this offseason to figure out where they are going to go moving forward. And he's got the injury situation that complicates things, because these Lisfranc injuries, a lot of people have had them. Some people have had them, have come back from them quicker than others. John, I know you've done some research on that in Wednesday's paper about this subject. I mean, Lisfranc injury is it's no joke.
Yeah, it's not at all. It's got an unusual name, and people might not be too familiar with it, but a very significant injury. The Titans, of course, have already ruled out Locker for the rest of this season. Now, just how long that'll keep him from exercising and from rehabbing remains to be seen. The big question, of course, is whether Jake Locker needs to undergo surgery or not. At this point, it looks like that's going to happen. It's not for certain yet. But if he does undergo surgery, you're probably looking at a minimum of 3 to 4 months before he can even start getting back and jogging and doing kind of the minimal athletic exercises needed to rehab. So if it's not surgery, a guy like a Pittsburgh running back, Le'Veon Bell, had a Lisfranc injury earlier this year, only missed about 6 or 8 weeks, and he was back on the field. But considering the fact that the Titans have already ruled out Locker for the rest of the season, that certainly doesn't appear to be the case. It looks more like it's going to be surgery. So again, you'd expect minimum of 3 to 4 months out. Some guys have taken closer to a year. You look at a guy like Santonio Holmes of the Jets, took almost a year before he was back on the field from the Lisfranc injury. So again, that will be determined by just how severe a Lisfranc injury it is. So we'll have to see what happens. In rare instances, it's been a career ender. A guy several years ago, Eric Rett, that played for the Cleveland Browns, had the Lisfranc injury and never played again after suffering it in his 7th season. But more often than not, players do come back. It's just a question of how long it takes and how well they come back. So a lot of questions right now for Jake Locker. We'll begin to answer those questions when we get an idea of just how severe that Lisfranc injury is.